Hey there, Lisa here. Welcome to my channel. I hope you'll join me in my love of crafting and DIYs and hit that subscribe button. Today's video is part of the Stencil It Up challenge. So there'll be a playlist full of stencil projects. And this is hosted by CJ DIY, as well as Krista's Crafty Life, and Creating It Myself. These ladies' channels, as well as the playlist, will be linked in my description box. All right, let's get started on our project. Today we are making a bird cafe sign for my porch. You will need a wooden sign. I picked this up at the Dollar Tree. Paint, brushes. I used a stencil brush as well as a round sponge brush, polyurethane, Mod Podge, masking tape, a stencil, chain, 2 gourd pins, 2 clips for the chain, and then an L shelf bracket. I was going to use the jigsaw I got for my birthday in February and cut out a sign. However, I saw this at the Dollar Tree and it was about the right size and sort of the shape I was going for. So I grabbed it and took off the paper, which was a chore. I'm not sure if these come off well with a heat gun. If you have tried that and it works, let me know, because this was tedious. But I did finally get it off, and then I gave it a little bit of a sanding. And then I gave it 2 coats of Rust-Oleum's linen white chalk paint. And I did do both sides and the edges, as I intended to paint both sides of the sign. But I end up only getting one done. And then I designed a stencil on my Cricut, and I am still learning this. So it's probably painful, some of you people who have been doing this a long time, to watch me do this. I enjoy weeding. I do not enjoy transferring so far. I did use the stencil paper from Cricut as well as the transfer paper, as they were part of the kit. And I had a heck of a time. I'm not sure what I am doing wrong. You know, maybe it's just you got to get used to it, and the technique isn't as easy in the very beginning. But I did eventually get it. I know part of the problem was that I got my transfer tape on a little bit bubbly. But I did finally get it on the sign. It wasn't perfect by any means, but like I said, I'm kind of a rookie stenciler. I've actually been practicing in some of my videos before this, just a little bit. And I will tell you that my garden stenciling from my video prior to this went way better than this one did. And part of it is that I chose a very intricate font for this. And so I think that was part of the problem. But then I took and put 2 coats of Mod Podge on. I felt like the first one I didn't quite get enough, so I did end up doing 2 coats of Mod Podge over the entire stencil after I had surrounded it with painter's tape, because I am messy. And then I took my color choices and started stenciling those in with a brush, whereas with the Mod Podge I did use a sponge. I'm not sure which I like better. You know, I've sort of just been trying different materials, different brushes, different everything, just to try to find what I really like. So I did the lettering in black, and then I did the outer edge and the bird in this turquoise color, which was chosen by my husband. You know, in stenciling, there's more to it than you think. You know, you watch people do it and it's like, oh, they just applied the stenciling. But turns out, like, how much paint do you put on? How hard do you push? There's lots of things. So if you are a stenciling master, I would love any tips. As like I said, I'm kind of a rookie. And then it came to the favorite part, or the part where you hold your breath. And that is pulling off the stencil and seeing what is left behind. I will say that the larger letters and the bird did okay. I don't know if you can kind of tell there, but the Y is partially gone. It went with the stencil. And weeding this was difficult after I had done the stencil, because I put the paint on probably a little bit thicker than I should have. and it was really hard to tell what needed to be lifted up and what didn't. And so there's a couple spots where, I gouged the sign just a little bit, trying to get what I think is a middle section up, and turns out it isn't. And this bottom part just, I think that it's just too thin and too small. I don't really know how you stencil something like this and get it to take all of it. But like I said, I'm learning here. Yesterday I was ready to put this in the timeout bin and just never look at it again. But I decided to share this because I just want to encourage you. You don't just pick this up. I mean, you don't just, there's a technique to stenciling, and, you learn as you go and keep trying, and I will do the same. I am going to master this. So anyways, I try to fix the open daily. I go over it with black and try to fill it in. I don't have a super steady hand, and so it didn't look real great. So then I go back over it with white. And I did do some touch-ups around the sign as well. And then I try to add some antique wax, and I didn't like that. So I start rubbing that off, the antique wax, and my paint starts coming up. And so I give up and I sand it all down for the open daily portion anyways. And I sand it down smooth, and I probably sanded a little bit too much. I think maybe my frustration was coming out a little bit there. And then I got dust all over my letters because they were still just a little bit tacky because I lack patience. And so this is me going, oh, now what? So I paint over this. I just take my white paint. I give it, it took several coats to get it covered. And I am going to reapply the stencil. Now, when I tore this stencil off, I balled it up and threw it in the trash, just my craft trash, so it's sanitary. And so I end up digging it out and pulling the paint off and just cutting this section. The rest of it had ripped, but I was able to salvage the open daily, so I didn't have to go recut it. And so I take that and put that down, and then I am just using a paint marker. I'm just going to use a paint marker and just basically write it in and not stencil this portion because it's so small, and I'm worried I'm going to have the same problem again. To hang the sign, I used an L shelf bracket, and then I used chain from a hanging basket planter from the Dollar Tree. And I took the hooks that came on the chain and I bent them and got them on the shelf bracket in the holes, and then they sort of stuck out forward, if that makes sense. And then I added a piece of chain to them. And then on the sign, it already had holes where it had been hung on twine. So I took some gourd pins and just used those because I didn't have enough hooks with the planter, and then connected that to the chain. Finally, I used some pliers to pinch the clips shut as I had bent them quite a bit to get them on the holes in the bracket. Okay, so here it is once I had it on the chain. And then I decided that I was going to antique it a little bit. So I took my antique wax and with a paper towel, I gave it a good coat, just randomly heavy around the edges. I'm not sure if I should have done this. You'll have to let me know which you like more. So here it is, antiqued. And then I haven't done this yet because it's crazy windy, but I will give it a coat of polyurethane. This project may have needed some time in the timeout bin, but end result, I'm pretty happy with. If you look really close, you can see all the mistakes that, I'm crazy about in my head. But from my window or sitting on the patio, it looks pretty cool. So I am happy with it. I learned a lot, and I am going to keep stenciling until I get this mastered. I am open to tips and suggestions if you got them. I would love to know what you think in the comments below. Please let me know. If you want to see more from me, hit that subscribe button. And if you like the video, please give it a like. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day.